Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat for the final panel discussion of today, and then we will be giving you a brief insight in terms of the next 3 days of programming we have at M42. So please do take your seats. We've got a limited amount of time for our final panel discussion. And like a school teacher, I am not going to be handing over, and we're not going to be beginning until I have your attention. Thank you so much. We've had such a wonderful day, especially organized by the M42 team, an illustrious panel list, medical experts, AI experts, and a very enthusiastic audience. And again, we're going to be opening up for your Q&A towards the end of this session. In this particular session, we're going to be building a bridge of hope to heart transplantation with stories of miracles of modern medicine. I'll be handing over to Dr. Faraz Badr, the Department Chair of Cardiovascular Medicine and the Director of Heart Failure and Transplant Section at the Cleveland Clinic, Abu Dhabi. Please do take your seat. I'll be handing over to you. And Dr. Usman Ahmed, the Department Chair of Thoracic Surgery, Heart, Vascular and Thoracic Institute, also at the Cleveland Clinic, Abu Dhabi. And as you can see, there's a theme here. Another wonderful representative from the Cleveland Clinic, Abu Dhabi. We have Dr. Nadia Al-Matrushi, who's a staff physician and heart failure and transplant section. Thank you so much. And I will be making sure that everybody has mics, they're in the right position. Over to you.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon to discuss some of the most innovative things in heart and vascular and thoracic medicine, and that is organ transplantation in the form of heart transplantation as well as lung transplantation. Dr. Osman here joined us approximately a year ago and revamped our lung transplantation program significantly. And I would like to start with him by asking him about how it feels now that he has a very active lung transplant program in the region.
Thank you, Dr. Faraz. Good afternoon, everybody. This is a very remarkable time in the Middle East, in the whole Gulf region and the surrounding countries. For those of you who have relatives or friends or themselves suffer from lung diseases, know that not being able to breathe or take a deep breath is a very powerful feeling. And when you cannot breathe, you cannot do anything else in life, and your whole daily life comes to a standstill. In some stages, lung transplantation is the only viable treatment option for these patients. We're very blessed to have great leadership, great partnerships, leadership of the country, leadership of our organization. We're sitting at the booth of our leadership here at M42 that has enabled us to create an ecosystem, a program and a system where we can now offer the hope of being able to breathe again to these patients with end-stage lung disease. In partnership with us, the National Transplant Committee has made great strides in creating the organ donation system in the country. Without them, we will not be able to offer patients lung transplant. But with them, we've made great successes. And it is my pleasure to announce on behalf of all of my team that we just reached a milestone of 25th lung transplant in the last 1.5 years. This is something that's really unheard of in the country for sure, and in the region also. And this has really put us on the map, and we've become the center for providing hope to patients, not just from the UAE, but from all the surrounding countries.
A great milestone, no doubt. Now, can you just elaborate a little bit more on this ecosystem that you talked about? Maybe it's great to highlight how much it takes to actually have a lung transplant program. And we have a heart transplant program where Dr. Nadia and myself work in, and we know how sophisticated it is to have a team to provide such an advanced form of therapy. But maybe tell us a little bit more about your team.
You know, that's a difficult question to answer because it will take me all day to enumerate the number of things that are necessary to have a successful program. But what I will say is that with a lot of people we see here in the audience who are part of our group and part of our team, we have a multi-specialty areas of expertise that are fulfilled in our organization. That allow us to take care of these really sick patients. It's not just a matter of doing the surgery, it's a matter of taking care of these patients before the surgery, during the surgery, after the surgery, and it needs a large team of multidisciplinary experts to do all of this. We're now in a place in the UAE where we can do this. This was unheard of before these efforts were put into place. But we're very fortunate that now we have an answer to this problem.
We're also very fortunate to have an active heart transplant program at the Cleveland Clinic in Abu Dhabi, and we've completed 18 heart transplant programs. Dr. Nadia also joined us approximately a year ago as a new wonderful rising star in the field of heart failure and transplantation. Dr. Nadia, can you perhaps tell us a story of a patient that you were really touched by among these heart transplant patients?
First of all, first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Firas because without his effort and his really great work, we would not reach to this stage. We had almost 18 patients post-heart transplant, and the last 6 months we did almost 6 patients. So it's my pleasure to share with you one story of one patient. He's Emirati patient, manhaj, 20 years old. He was transferred to us from other hospital in a shock state. So patient he has background history of biventricular dysfunction, and this patient had a high mortality rate. Usually they die within 6 months. So we transferred the patient. Patient was on high dose of inotropic support, and when he came in, he had multi-organ failure, had shock liver and kidney failure. So we decided to save him with an ECMO support, and then after like 10 days.
But let me interrupt you right there. Did you say the patient was in his 20s?
Yes.
So do you actually see patients with advanced end-stage heart failure only in their 20s sometimes?
To be honest with you, in UAE we see a 20s and 90, but in the other, like in America and US or Canada, they are older than 20. So here, I think there's a familial cardiomyopathy. It's a common, and usually we miss the diagnosis. We missed to diagnose this patient early stage.
So the patient was very sick to where you had to put him on this external pump, basically, which is
Exactly.
sometimes also used in lung patients called the extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. Basically an external pump to support the heart. And what happened after that?
And then patient, because was cachystic, was weak, so we say like we'll support him with all the medication, and then we'll decide about the transplant. So and this support usually stayed in the body for only 14 days. So that's why we decided then to change the ECMO support to the central, and it was the first procedure we did it in UAE. It was the first patient we did this procedure.
And what does exactly the central switch mean? What happened to the patient? He was on an external pump,
Yeah.
and how was that upgraded?
So you know that when patient was supported peripherally, patient will not able to walk, but with the central ECMO, usually what we will do, like we will open the chest and we take all the lines and we place it inside the heart. So it works like an external heart or support. So then patient was stayed in the ICU with support, also he walked with the cardiac rehab, and he stayed almost 69 days. And then after that we find a good heart for him, and then we say like let's proceed with heart transplant. Patient underwent uncomplicated transplant, alhamdulillah, and then he stayed only 10 days after the transplant, and then discharged home.
This is very remarkable, and if to say that I don't know about the patient would be a lie, because the patient did end up spending at the hospital a total of 4 months, transitioning from medications to support his heart and keep it alive, to an external pump to two pumps, one for the right side and one for the left, and ultimately to heart transplantation, all in sequence. And then eventually he walked out of the hospital after the heart transplantation. This is a young man in his 20s. As you can imagine, so many people were involved at the level of the hospital, in all different units, in all different departments, in this young man's care, and ultimately witnessed his successful exit out of the hospital. And of course, that was a big moment of celebration. Osman.
I'll just echo those comments for us that taking care of these really sick patients, it takes a village to get every single one of them through these processes. For those of you who are walking around, you can go look at the cardiopulmonary bypass machines and ECMO on some of these booths. They look very nice and fancy out here, but when you're connected to a person and there's blood coming out and blood going in, it's a different story. And it takes a team of 15, 20 people at times to be able to get these patients out of bed, keep them healthy, keep them strong enough until we can find the right heart or the right lung for the transplant. Excuse me. And it is really a privilege for us, and we're here to acknowledge every one of those team members who allow us to take care of these really sick patients. Our administration, our secretarial staff, our physical therapists, nutritionists, intensivists, anesthesiologists, without whom none of this will be possible. And I think it is also very important now to highlight the fact, as Dr. Nadia and Dr. Faraz pointed out, that now we're taking care of patients that are being refused care in other parts of the world. So we have the expertise and the resources available with our partnerships, with our governing entities, and with the government, and with the National Transplant Congress and Society, where we're able to provide hope to these end-of-life, really sick, and sometimes very, very young patients.
So we always say that our mission statement at the Cleveland Clinic in Abu Dhabi is to provide complex and compassionate care. Can you maybe both say a few words about how heart transplant and lung transplant would manifest this to the maximum compared to almost anything else we do? Complex and compassionate care when it comes to heart transplant.
So I have to say something really important. For a heart transplant, we need a teamwork, because without the team, from nursing, cardiac rehab, or like physiotherapy, dietitian, and the physician, cardiac surgery, and also internal medicine, because sometimes they're taking care of the patient from all the aspects, will not reach to this stage. So I'm really a pleasure to work in Cleveland Clinic, because that's what we have in Cleveland Clinic. We have a teamwork. Like we have all the specialty, we have all the experts that can help and provide a good support to our patient and a good care for them.
It's a very interesting question for us. So, as a heart and lung surgeon, I see patients who are at the end of their life or at the end of life of their organ. And believe it or not, the only surgery they can have safely is a heart or a lung transplant. If they go under anesthesia for any other surgery, they will not wake up out of that anesthetic episode. And for me to be there when that patient is going to sleep and get them through the operation and then wake them up the next day and be able to talk to them, the first emotion, as both of you have and a lot of you who've taken care of them have seen a lot, is that they cry when they hear their own voice after such a long time of being on machines and ventilators and so on and so forth. So with the teams in place, with all the expertise in place, we want to say that, thank God we're in a place where we can do this, and thank God that we can look at these miracles. But it's really these small miracles that every one of the member of the team brings into play and makes the whole picture and make the whole picture complete and make the big miracle happen. Without every one of our team members, we'll be incomplete and not able to do what we do every day.
So maybe I can add something. When I saw my patient 7 days after the discharge, the first thing he told me, thank you, and I want you to thank your team, because it was my first time to stay at home without going to the emergency. Because my patient was every 2-3 days, he visited the emergency for like because of the volume overload. So after transplant, really changed his life.
I mean, it's miraculous that these therapies are now saving lives for even young people. And although we all know that cancers, when they're very advanced, are very fatal, advanced heart failure patients waiting for heart transplant and advanced lung failure patients waiting for lung transplant actually have worse mortality than the most advanced cancers. So to be able to save them with organ transplant with such a huge team, and team is the key word here, is miraculous for a region like ours. And I would echo Osman's comments that this would not have happened without the support that we had from our hospital leadership as well as the M42 leadership and the country leadership to make these teams come together and work in such a harmonious way to save these lives.
I'll just add to that for us that it is very important to recognize the vision of the country's leadership in helping us do this. The country, as we know, the vast majority of the population is non-Emirati. The system of healthcare that's been provided here also allows us to take care of every one of those patients. And the healthcare is not, including transplant, is not just limited to the Emirati population, which is a phenomenal effort, a phenomenal undertaking. If we go to most Western countries, we have a certain quota or budget or number of transplants that we can do for non-citizen patients in every one of these foreign countries. But the ecosystem is different here, and this percolates all the way from the top to the bottom. And it's really humbling for us to be able to take care of every one of our patients in this situation. So let me change the topic a little bit for us. So we can take care of really sick patients. We can get them through complex ICU courses and surgeries and so forth. Can I ask you to comment a little bit about the long term of what things look like after a heart transplant?
Oh, I mean, when a heart transplant goes very well, these patients are expected to live a normal life. We take care of them so they do not have any rejection of the transplanted heart by doing certain tests, especially early after heart transplant. And we have the capabilities to do these tests. We assess with our immunologists and our pathologists the risk and existence of a rejection. And then once they pass the first year, the second year, their expectancy is fantastic. The outlook is amazing. And some of these patients end up going back to sports, doing more than what normal people would do. In fact, there are transplant Olympics that people go and participate in just to show that they're completely normal and living a healthy life. But perhaps we should stop here and open it for the audience to ask questions regarding heart and lung transplantation. Yes.
Hello. Thank you very much for this great news that you have established this heart and lung transplant. And I need to agree. My name is Dujana Musa, and I came from Saudi Arabia. I'm a senior physician and transplant nephrologist and transplant physician. I led the unit in Prince Sultan in Riyadh. And you know that Prince Sultan is the second center where the heart transplant is done. I agree with Dr. Nadia about the multidisciplinary team, because that's, I think, it's the cornerstone of the success of any transplant project. But also the vision and the priority listing to support that project also has to be within the leaders, because this is a demanding project and needs to be always to be supported. And you know, Saudi Arabia has been a leader into that. We did somewhere around 400 heart transplants until 2017, before the pandemic. You know, in the pandemic, everything stopped. And lung transplant also, we did about 100 transplants. So it's a great news, and I wish you best of luck.
Thank you.
I'll just comment on that. Thank you for that comment. In fact, we've invited our lung transplant colleagues from Saudi who are going to join us tomorrow afternoon. We have a very busy lung transplant session and a heart transplant meeting that is just in the process of finishing up. So it's very exciting to make these partnerships. Welcome to the UAE. Thank you for visiting us. And I think with working together is how we all grow together successfully.
And let me just provide you with some statistics, because we published a lot about the need for heart transplant programs in the Eastern Mediterranean region. The Eastern Mediterranean region, by the WHO definition, is a region that extends from Morocco in the west all the way to Pakistan in the east. This region has about 750 million people. So that's 1.5 times the population of Europe and 2.5 times the population of the United States. And if I tell you how many heart transplants are being done in this entire region, you will be shocked. So Saudi Arabia has come a long way, and I know that their program has been active since the 80s, but we really need a lot more programs, and the addition of the program here in UAE certainly supports that need, in addition to what we still need to do in the future to serve this entire region to be on par with what is being done in Europe and in North America. Any other questions?
Hi, I'm from the UK. I'm a designated individual in a group of hospitals in the United Kingdom. What are you doing to promote organ donation in your population? And do you do only cadaveric in the kidney transplants, or do you do live-related? And what are you doing about that?
Nadia, can you just talk a little bit about your interactions with the Emirates Center for Organ Donation and what they're doing?
So in UAE we have organ donation society. So this the team, when they found like for example, if the patient, if they have like a donor, they will call us the or the transplant team with all the information of patient age, donor age, blood group, and all the basic information. And then we are looking for the matching if we have a donor and a recipient, and then we'll go investigate on the like the feasibility or acceptance of the donor. That's from heart perspective. And the lung, I believe the same. Yeah.
So thanks for joining us. We have a very lively effort in the country. In fact, there's a parallel meeting going on, which you're welcome to join, on organ donation in the whole region. As the designated transplant center, we don't interact with the donors or donors' family per se, but we're part of the education process. So M42, Cleveland Clinic, all of these entities and other healthcare entities in the country are active members of the Hayat program, which is an Arabic word that means life, and is a very active program. All of us support it. All of us support it educationally at this point as the as the recipient physicians, but it has a life of its own that has taken off in the last few years, and that is really what has enabled us to proceed with these programs. And we're actually now seeing patients from the UK who, because of age limits and what have you, do not have access to solid organ transplant. We are at a point in our natural history of the program where we may have organs available for them, and if they don't have any other contraindications, we're happy to support them.
And let me report to you one interesting statistic. In the last 5 years, so between 2018 and 2022, UAE ranked number 1 in the world in the increase in organ donation. Okay? So organ donation, cadaveric organ donation increased by 400% in UAE relative to what it was in 2018, and we continue to increase thanks to the efforts of everyone that is involved, between the healthcare systems, but also the Emirates Center for Organ Transplantation, as well as the public awareness that took place during all that time, and the Hayat program, which is the official program now for people to register as organ donors. You asked a second question about living related and cadaveric. We do both. So for living related, we do the kidney and liver, and then for cadaveric, of course, we do everything. Any other questions? Any final quick thoughts?
Well, I think it'll be important to recognize that the gift of life is a miracle in itself and is a great thing, and without it, none of us will be here talking about it. So for those of you who are interested in knowing about the program, please look up the Hayat program. I encourage all of you to get yourself educated, get people around you educated, because this is the ultimate gift that one human can give to the other human being. Thank you very much.
Nadia, any final thoughts?
No, thank you for giving me the chance and to discuss my patient and to be with you today.
We would like to thank you again for joining us this afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Faraz, Dr. Usman, and Dr. Nadia. Please do take a photograph.